Alrighty.
All right.
So here we go. All right. We have a few seconds before, well, a good 35, well, a minute rather, sorry. Before we go in there, good morning to everyone on Facebook. I apologize for squinting, see my glasses, but thank you all for joining us this morning. As you can see, I'm joined by two special guests, Mr. Jimmy Bumper from Arkansas State University, and we'll get into more formal introductions in a moment, and Ms. Lauri Smith, or Mrs., I'm sorry.
Mrs., but that's fine.
Mrs. Lauri Smith from St. Benards Medical Healthcare. You want to say medical center? St. Benards Healthcare. And again, we'll get into more formal introductions in just a moment. But we're going to be talking about an event that's coming up next Friday. And to you all, if I start coughing, please just keep talking. Keep talking. We want everyone to register. Registration is still open. But again, we'll get some more details as we go along. We're about to go on air here very shortly. So stay tuned. Hold on. If you have any questions or comments, I will tell you it's about the diversity in action. I keep wanting to call it a seminar. Would that be?
Calling it a conference, but yes, seminar. That's fine. Also.
Okay. Conference. So we would love for everyone possible to attend. It's via Zoom, so you really have no excuse not to attend. You don't have to get up and get fully dressed to attend. Oh, here we go. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday to you. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Y'all, please forgive me for the delay. I'm running my mouth but not watching the time. I am joined by two very special guests today. We have Mr. Jimmy Bumper, who is administrative specialist at the Office of Diversity on the campus of Arkansas State University. And then we have Mrs. Lauri Smith, who is the VP of I'm sorry, I just paused it just that quick. Is it Human Resources? At St. Benards Healthcare, but I'm going to let them give more formal introductions of themselves and tell us how long you've been in those positions, maybe what are some of your day-to-day duties, and then we're going to jump right into talking about the Diversity in Action Conference that's coming up. So good morning to you all.
Good morning.
And
Ladies first?
Mr. Jimmy, ladies first.
Me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. This is how we roll here.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for having us both this morning. We're really excited to get to be part of your broadcast this morning. So thank you for that opportunity. Yes, my name is Lauri Smith, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources here at St. Bernard's. And so my responsibilities aren't just for the hospital here in Jonesboro, but also really the way I describe it is anything with the St. Bernard's logo on it. And so that includes all of our many different clinics, from the First Care clinics to Clopton Clinic, the Heart and Vascular Clinic, all those different entities, the Health and Wellness, the Fitness Center on Matthews, as well as our rural hospitals that we partner with. So that's the hospital down in Wynn, which is Cross Ridge, St. Bernard's Hospital at Cross Ridge, and then the Five Rivers Hospital in Pocahontas as well. And so I enjoy getting to interact with people from all those different locations. And I've been with St. Bernard's, it'll be 6 years this fall, but I tease that I really started 44 years ago, when I was born here. I made my grand entrance at St. Bernard's 44 years ago. So some of my different responsibilities being in human resources, often people ask, what is that? What does that mean? And so we're responsible for supporting our staff all the way from joining our organization when they get hired until hopefully one day they retire and exit our organization at that point. So that involves, helping them to be hired into the position that they are most interested in, making sure that they're getting the training that they need, that they are feeling engaged in the organization. So we have employee engagement. We also have employee safety as part of our department. So helping with all those different requirements and making sure that people have the right tools to keep them safe on the job, as well as payroll and benefits are all done here out of this office. And then employee relations. So if they're struggling with a situation with a coworker or a leader or working with another department, then we're a team that they can come to and kind of bounce those concerns off of and get some guidance. So really, again, our role is just to support our staff kind of from that start to beginning, as well as our leaders. So I really, really enjoy getting to do that because I like working with people. But so that's my background. I'm a local person. I grew up about 30 minutes from Jonesboro and Caraway, went to school at Arkansas State, and got my bachelor's degree there, and then went to William Woods University that's located in central Missouri for my master's, because that's where I was living at the time. I'm not a healthcare expert, so I will not ever pretend to be that. So I started out from college in manufacturing and worked in HR manufacturing, and then went into telecommunications, and then again have been at St. Bernard's here about 6 years.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And
That
before we
is.
go any further, Mr. Jimmy, we have some comments in the Facebook live feed, and
Okay.
Mr. Shamal Carter with CRDC would like to partner with you, Ms. Lauri, for a resource fair in July. So we'll make sure to get you his
Awesome.
contact information.
Yeah.
I want to say good
Oh.
morning to everyone else that is watching. Ms. Linda Johnson Frazier, S.R. Robinson. Thank you, Mr. Shamal, for that information. So, all right, Mr. Jimmy, without further ado.
Yes, good morning, all. Thanks. I want to thank you again for having me. This is an honor and a privilege to be here on your radio station here today. My name is Jimmy Bumper. I work here at Arkansas State University in the Multicultural Affairs Center. My job title is Administrative Specialist / Office Manager. And some of my day-to-day duties, is, of course, is encompassing office management. Just promoting the diversity, and I work with students here on campus, underrepresented students, underprivileged students, and whatnot. You know, to get the word out and to spread the diversity and inclusion. We have a great office here and a great group of students that come in every day. I got a great boss I work for, Dr. Allen, who's training me up to be the greatest office manager I can be. But I enjoy really working here because it promotes diversity throughout the campus and how we connect with the community and the programs and organizations that we work with here on campus. So I'm a native. I was born where Ms. Smith works. I was born in St. Charles Hospital, and well, I'm not going to tell my age, but some years ago, I joined this state after I recently retired from the military. I went through the Jonesboro public school system, from East Elementary all the way to Jonesboro High, and worked a couple of years within the communities, customer service business. So I really love the customer service business. So that's why I love working here at A-State in the diversity section here in the multicultural affairs. So I went into the military for about 24 years, and I think I'm telling my age, but 24 years in 1992, retired and was hoping to get back to Jonesboro here at A-State and work for an organization that serves the community. And this is the best way I found to do it, especially working in an office that promotes diversity and inclusion. So it's been awesome working here. I'm working on my resume and get credentials like my counterpart here, Ms. Smith, and educate myself. I'm working on my master's degree in business administration. And because all of the students here, and like I was telling you guys earlier, and all the people that I work with here and network here within A-State, how encouraging they are, and just to see these young students of all different colors and religion and background and races and better themselves and educate themselves, it inspires me to better myself. So this has been awesome. This is this is an awesome opportunity to get opportunities like this to speak with the public in the community. So like I said, I'm a native of Jonesboro, and I've been happy to be back here after 24 years of leaving. And I'm happy to be a part of this. And I love being a part. One thing the military taught me is being a part of something that's greater than yourself and the overall mission. So I'm glad to be a part of A-State. And thank you for having me.
Thank you all. And so I'm glad you gave those detailed backgrounds, because that can help tie into our discussion about the Diversity in Action conference that's coming up. So let's tell everyone the date and the time of the conference. There is a fee attached, so please, we'll make sure to provide you the link so that you can go and register and pay for that fee and attend. But let's go ahead and get into the conference first, date and time, and then get into some details. And who would like to go first?
Sure, I can do that. So the conference is, like you had mentioned earlier, it's a week from today. So that's Friday, June the 18th, and it's from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And the cost is $25. that can all be paid for online through the link.
Okay. And so let's talk about what diversity in action, like what does it look like? What does it mean in the state that we are in across the let's say across the globe.
Sure. And I don't mind to start, and I'll let Mr. Bumper there add on some comments as well. But this is our second event. So St. Bernards and ASU, the multicultural department there where Mr. Bumper works at, came together last year before we knew everything that was going to play out last year, in our country and across the globe. So that first event was in February of last year, and started planning on that in 2019. And really the intent of that event was to focus on awareness, to bring more of an awareness to our local businesses and schools and workplaces about why it is so important to value diversity and to value those inclusion efforts to help everyone feel included where they are at. And it was a great event. But as we started thinking about what do we need to do this year, of course, decided to be virtual because we started planning. We didn't really know what the state of COVID would be in our community at this point. But we felt like what was more important now, there has been lots of awareness, that has taken place since then, both positively and negatively. What can we do about it? No matter where we're at, no matter what our own personal situation or background is, now that we have a little bit more knowledge and awareness, what are things that we can do to make the world better, to make our communities better, to help support, one another. And so that's what we decided that the focus of this event should be about, and how to have more open conversations, because this requires a lot of difficult conversations that many of us don't really know what to say, and are worried about, hurting feelings or whatever. And so instead it's about how to have those safe conversations to help each other and support one another.
Okay, Mr. Jimmy.
Yes, Ms. Smith said it all. Awesome. Yes, I'll second that. To me, diversity is action is what we promote here in the multicultural affairs every day, is creating a welcome and inclusive environment for all. And like Ms. Smith said, having those conversations, whether they may be uncomfortable or not, getting those issues out that other race people and people who have different differences may have, coming together and discussing. That's one thing I took from the military.
Yes.
Loved about the military. It's so diverse. And I was so happy when I got this job in this office that promotes diversity. And our mission statement is to promote a welcome environment and the diversity and including all, excuse me. But I enjoyed the military. And something it taught me to accept everyone, to promote quote unquote happiness for all, inclusion. Rejection hurts. So when we promote the diversity and inclusion, it helps people feel that they belong. So yes, I'll second what Ms. Smith said. I have nothing else to add to that. That's awesome. Yes.
Now I want to add this. Oftentimes when we hear the word diversity, people automatically think race or ethnicity, but diversity spans across the spectrum. When we're talking about gender, sexual identity, and it doesn't matter what your beliefs are concerning men, women, sexual identity, whatever someone else's intersectionality is, they still deserve respect, the same way you require respect. And then there you have people with disabilities, people with mental issues, and again, a variety of things that makes us diverse as a people across this nation. We're just gonna stick to the US, across this nation. And so diversity looks at, to me, that means looking at someone, receiving them where they are, and being inclusive, including them in whatever is happening, and making the appropriate accommodations to make them feel welcome and comfortable in that space. Conflict will rise. I mean, that's a given. However, it's how we choose to deal with it that makes the big difference. But I'm going to stop talking, and I want to get into some of the speakers. We have about less than 10 minutes in this segment, so let's get into the first speaker right now.
Sure. Jimmy, you want to take this one and I'll take the next one?
Okay, great. Yes. Get into the speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
Yes.
pull up my, what's it called here? Yes, we have some great speakers coming for our event, which is awesome. I've never met either one of the speakers. I've read up on their backgrounds. Our first speaker is Dr. Brian K. Hodgkins. He's an assistant professor in educational philosophy and leadership at Texas Tech University. He has a great background. He has a lot of knowledge when it comes to diversity, a lot of experience on those topics. So so excited to hear from him. And our second speaker that we have is Dr. Faye. Help me out, Ms. Smith, if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Dr. Faye, how you say it?
Co-Shara.
Kosher, there we are.
Yes.
She's a clinical associate professional in management of University of Texas at Arlington. So she's also has a lot of information and experience in diversity and inclusion. And finally, our last speaker is Russell Schaefer. He's a senior director of global culture, diversity and equity and inclusion at Walmart. So we have some great speakers with some lot of experience, and that's over 25 plus years of experience that the gentleman and lady has to bring to this conference. And I think it's going to be a great event once we get to hear what they have to say. And I hope a lot of people are listening will attend this event that we got coming.
Thank you.
And I know,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go, please.
I was going to say, thank you for giving that overview. That was perfect. So when we started trying to work on our speaker selection this year, what we were focused on was making sure that we identified individuals that had experience coming up with tips and strategies, again, about how to put some of these things into action, not just people that had researched it and studied it, but had actually done that before. And then hopefully people that some of us have had some kind of a connection to, because you're always nervous when you select speakers if you've never met them before, how is this going to go? And so, as Jimmy said, we're super excited. The first speaker, as he was describing, Dr. Hodgkins. Actually, Dr. Allen, that is Jimmy's leader there at ASU, she has a personal connection to him and knew his background. And so besides his role there at the university that he teaches at there at Texas Tech, he has his own consulting type business where he is working with schools and like cities, local cities, police departments on covering topics such as how to put together actions that you can take to help reverse racism and some of those types of things. In the school settings, besides working with leaders and teachers, he even works with families, parents, and gives suggestions on how to how to prepare your children for some of those uncomfortable situations they're going to find themselves in. He's been a published author of lots of different research, but also been out and training these individuals. So that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about having Dr. Hodgkins with us. That next, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you mentioned a part about children. We often leave our children out of discussions. It's almost like we expect them to just do as we say, follow our lead, but are we always providing the best example for our children? Are we allowing our children to express to us what they experience on a day-to-day basis? We're not at school with them. We're not in their little social circles all the time. So we don't know what they are experiencing. And so we need to start bringing our children into the discussion, into the fold. And I'm glad that he has that experience on how to incorporate children.
Sure. And knowing too what's age appropriate. I think we all probably struggle with that this last year with everything that happened in our country. You don't want to not talk to children about that, because depending on their age level, they need to have an understanding of what's going on and what others that they are spending time with or dealing with that they may not even know about. And so I think that's some great tips he's going to have for us, like you were just saying, because we do need to include them with what we say and how we act, but also listening and knowing, what's age appropriate, what can we do with that specific age group. So I know as a parent that's hard stuff. And sometimes, I thought my family did a good job of that last year. And then we were talking about some recent events and realized they had no clue what we were talking about. They'd completely missed some of that last year. So specific to the Mr. Floyd's passing, I thought we did talk through some of those things, and clearly we didn't, or they had forgotten. So we can all use some guidance with some of that for sure.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. I know we're going to get ready for a break about 2 minutes.
Sure.
So I don't want to get too deep into the other speakers and,
Yeah.
their backgrounds, but I want to bring this up about, I know this conference doesn't focus specifically on biases. However, when we discuss diversity, we have to also include that bias piece, or at least think about it, because we each view life through a different lens based on our experience. Mr. Jimmy, you were in the military. You have a
Yes,
whole different life experience than I have.
yes.
I grew up in a rural area, like very rural. And so
Mhm.
I view life differently than someone who may have grown up in a city or metropolitan area. And so, again, our education backgrounds are different. Yes, I have, 2 degrees, but my education is different from even yours, Miss Lori. So, and Miss Lori, based on your, what you do, 9 to 5, it's still, we have different experiences. And so, because of that, in our family dynamics, we view life differently. That doesn't make us inherently bad people, or that's just our life experience. And that lends itself to our day-to-day interactions with other people. And so sometimes we have to check ourselves just to make sure
Mhm.
we're being inclusive and understanding and empathetic of other
Yeah,
people. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna, that's great to bring up. And that was part of our conference last year, was
Mhm.
recognizing that we all have some biases, even though we want to say that we don't,
Yeah.
we really do.
Mhm.
And so our speaker last year recommended going online and taking those implicit bias tests that
Okay.
Harvard has for free. And so you can just go
Okay.
online and Google Harvard implicit bias test. And there are these online assessments, and you can take those based on, your feelings towards different races, ages, ethnicities. It covers lots of different abilities or disabilities, but it really opens your eyes up to some of those biases, because again, we all have them, but we need to know what they are so we can work towards, overcoming them.
All right, so I'm gonna put a pause right there. We're still gonna be live on Facebook, so those on Facebook, don't go anywhere. Those listening on air, you might want to jump on. We'll be right back after these announcements. Okay, so we're still live on Facebook, but I want to continue that piece you were talking about. And Mr. Jim, if you have anything you want to add to that, um, as far as the
Mhm.
biases and things of that nature, please.
Well, only thing I would ask, I appreciate you, excuse me, mentioning my military service. Yes, when I was in for 24 years, that's one thing I learned, and I learned it from my mother before I got in, my father and uncles, not to have biases. And I learned quickly in the military why you shouldn't have biases, because there's a lot of different people from different backgrounds that serve in our great military service. And I was in the Army. So yeah, I learned that quick, and I met a lot of people, a lot of different races of people, different backgrounds, different ideas and values. They was taught from home or church or whatnot. So I thank you for mentioning my military service. It really taught me the man, made me the man I am today, and opened my heart from the moment I left Jonesboro, this small community. It was the best thing that happened to me to get into the military and see different things and meet different people and meet all different types of God creatures, so race people. So yeah, it's biases. Yeah, in the military is no room for that, and I'm glad in a state is no room for that. I see that in our environment here every day, and the people I work with, and Ms. Smith, she can confirm that with her organization too as well. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. But yeah, it's awesome being here part of a state.
Alrighty. Miss Laura, you mentioned earlier about age. That's one of those intersections that I did bring up before, and I have a sociology degree, so I love all things um, I love studying people and how they interact and why. We'll never know the why, but I love trying to figure it out. But age is another one of those things, and I'm sure you're I'm not gonna say I'm sure, but you may have encountered, um, not you yourself, other people that work with you being discriminatory against people of different ages. Oftentimes we tend to say they're too young, they're too old, but what is the right age for certain things? So we all have to again check ourselves at times and stop trying to put people in these little boxes and just look at them as people and where they are and what they're capable of, and do an assessment and go from there. So we're going to go back on air here very soon. So I don't want to get too deeper in our conversation. For those of you listening on Facebook, thank you. Hold on just a moment, please.
Right. This is awesome.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Mrs. Lauri Smith from St. Benards Healthcare, and Mr. Jimmy Bumper from Arkansas State University from the Multicultural Center. No, Multicultural Affairs.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what you know.
Okay, and so we're going to continue our conversation about the Diversity in Action Conference coming up next Friday. It starts at 8:30. You do have time to register. Tell people when the registration cutoff is, please.
So we've extended the registration cutoff to, I think, is it Wednesday?
16 June. Yes.
Thank you. So I've got a little bit more time, but we don't, with it being on virtual and not live, it's a little bit different. So we can't just have somebody trying to jump on. They won't have the information if they wait and sign up, on a Friday morning. So yes, the deadline is Wednesday, June 16th.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We just have a comment. Want to say good morning to Miss Facilia. Thank you for checking in, and also Dr. Yvette Moore. Thanks so much for checking in. So Facilia says, I took some of the tests. We were talking before we went off air about the bias implicit test. And so she said, I took some of these tests prior to our first DEI conference. After putting some thought and working to me, I then took the test again. I was so impressed with the positive changes that I saw. You can beat this test. They are really a good way to gauge progress. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think again, we've been caught up in this little bubble. And I hate to blame it all on COVID, but COVID has pushed us into different spaces mentally and psychologically, and how we interact with each other. So I think this would be a great time for people to start gauging who they are and then really looking at their life from a wider lens. So, all right. So, can we get into our our other speaker? And you have any more information on some of their experience and what they can bring to this conference?
Sure, I'll be glad to do that. So we talked about Dr. Hotchkins before the break. The next speaker we're going to talk about is Dr. Faye Koshera.
Okay.
And some people in our community may know Dr. C is what she likes to go by. While she is also teaching in Texas right now, she's at the University of Texas in Arlington. Before that, she was here at Arkansas State University and taught in the College of Business. So several of the HR classes and other, related courses. And I cannot remember the years that she was there, but I would say it was probably around like 2010 to 2016, somewhere in the year. So she's still got quite a following in this area of people that love Dr. C, because she did a great job connecting with her students and mentoring them and connecting them to jobs. But she's got an interesting background. I know some people in academia, come straight through school and then go right into teaching at the college level. But she actually did that later in life and started out in the business world first. So what helps her in terms of our event and what we're trying to accomplish, she worked for a division of American Airlines for several years. Sabre was the name of that company. And when she was there, she got tasked with helping with some diversity initiatives, even though that wasn't originally the main portion of her role. So while she was at Sabre, she designed and implemented diversity-related corporate strategies, including mentoring, succession planning, and diversity training for all of their employees. And that was many, many years ago. And she said how that all started was an employee there at Sabre, an African-American female employee asking, why are there not people in leadership roles in our company, that look like me? And so that's what opened the eyes up there at that organization and allowed them to kind of head down that road in terms of focusing on diversity and inclusion. So she's got her background in terms of talking about these topics in the school setting as a university professor, but also, from that business setting and things that she accomplished, and just a very engaging and helpful individual. So I think we'll really enjoy getting to hear her perspective and getting a chance to ask her some questions while she's with us next week.
I like that piece about diversity in management. I know that there's a hierarchy to every organization, corporation. And so a company should strive to want their management team to be as representative as possible of the employees and staff, everyone under on the different levels of the, business. I know it may be simply impossible to have a woman, a Black woman, an Indian, a Hispanic, a this, that, whatever. However, at least make the effort to make it as inclusive as possible, without making someone else feel like you're pushing them aside because you're just trying to fill up this quote. That's not a thing. Don't just put somebody in a position just because you need somebody in a position,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
choose the right person for that position. But, you know, again, try to open up the pool for more people to feel included, to even want to apply or be appointed, whatever the case may be for a position. I'm gonna pull back. I get passionate about something.
Well, that's what makes it so interesting. And then our last speaker that we're also equally as excited about, as Jimmy mentioned, it's Russell Shaver with Walmart. And so we've not done a lot with Walmart before, but they have some great resources when it comes to these topics, because they are a global organization that is headquartered in Arkansas, which is amazing for us to have, an organization of that size here in our state. And so because they are such a large organization, they have their own division dedicated to culture, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that's a large team of people, and Mr. Shaver is part of that team. So he lives up in Northwest Arkansas in Rogers, and has been with St. Benards for many, many years. Not St. Benards. Has been at Walmart for several years, including, in this part. We would take him here, but no. He wants to live in Rogers, I guess. But he has won many awards for his work there in Walmart with that area of diversity and inclusion. And one of the last awards he mentioned was the John D. Kemp Leadership Award for recognition of his commitment to advance disability inclusion inside corporate America. And I think, we've mentioned that topic in this call already, that when it comes to disability or people's, different abilities, that's not something that gets focused on very often. And so our conference, like you had mentioned earlier, it's not just going to be focused on the racial aspect of diversity, but on gender and ability and many different topics. And so he's going to bring a great perspective to us that we've not had before in our event. And so his perspective is shaped by the fact that he has a visual disability. And I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it's a genetic degenerative eye disease that he was diagnosed with at the age of 10, and then led to him to being legally blind in his late 20s. And so he, again, won't just speak about how we can be more inclusive to disabled individuals, from textbooks or seminars, but from what he's personally experienced, in the form of discrimination. So he's going to have some great suggestions for us. I know myself, being in human resources, I'm really excited about that topic, because I think often when we have individuals that want to come to our organizations to become employed, if they have those disabilities that are very noticeable, we just get concerned and nervous about how to approach them, to talk about, what aspects of the role can you do and what aspects of the role do you need accommodations with. And so he's going to be another great speaker to help us with this event.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing that a statement I've come across in my years of dealing with the condition I have is that all disabilities are not visible. And so you can look at someone, they may seem, and I really hate the word normal, but they may seem normal or, seem highly functioning in their capacity. However, there may be some underlying issues that you just can't see, or they don't want to talk about, or they don't want to highlight. However, they still need certain accommodations. And so again, being inclusive, having a conversation with someone, just have a conversation and open that space for them to be open with you, can go a long way.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to hear these speakers. I'm going to make sure to have a notebook and a pen that's, full of ink, so I can take a lot of notes, because I am ready to absorb whatever they have to bring to this conference. And again, it's next Friday, the 18th, starts at 8:30. Register by the 16th because there's some materials that you will receive. So tell us about those materials, please.
Sure. So the materials that you'll receive once you sign up is you'll get your instructions on how to log in to watch that Zoom, to be ready. And I know many of us have become very comfortable using Zoom during COVID, but not everybody has. Not everybody's been using it as much. And so that way you'll have time to go ahead and download that to your desktop computer or laptop or your cell phone, and maybe even kind of practice some of that beforehand. So that way you'll have that information. You'll also receive a digital conference booklet that goes over the schedule. So that way you know when each speaker is and when the breaks are, and you have all that information. And then it'll also include the information if you're someone that's going to be able to apply for some kind of recertification credits. So whether you're a nurse, a social worker, a school-based therapist, an HR person, if you need those kind of continuing education credits, you're going to get the information that you'll need on how to do that as well. And then the links to the survey, because we love having feedback after the event's over. So we know what it is that we can do differently or more of for our next event in the future.
Right. I just want to remind everyone, for those that are needing continuing education credits, it's not listed how many on the flyer, but you can find, do you by chance, or you and Mr. Jimmy know how many CE hours are available?
I believe it is 3 hours because each of our speakers will be speaking in 1 hour blocks. So we have some breaks in there. That's why it's a 4-hour event. It's some introductory remarks and closing remarks, but it should be 3 hours of the CEU credit.
Okay, and so for those of you in those fields where you need those hours, you know how maybe, I don't want to say hard it is to get those hours, but everyone has a schedule that doesn't always allow you to attend everything. So get those hours in where you can, while you can. Take them on a Friday.
And for a really low, inexpensive cost, and you don't have to travel anywhere to get that. So that's always a good thing.
Yes.
And that should be the selling point right there. You don't have to travel.
Yeah.
How many of us, sometimes some people love to travel, but it's like getting to a hotel. Now you got to get up, get dressed, go to another convention center, somewhere else, whatever, just sit for a conference for hours and go back. So it's like you're at home. Just put a nice top on, get on the computer, and get ready for this conference and all this wonderful information from these wonderful speakers that are coming. And I just want to say, I don't know them, but thank you in advance to them for giving of their time, and their energy and their expertise to lend itself to this conference. So let's talk about, what do you hope people walk away with? What is your biggest, I can say biggest hope? What do you hope people walk away with? And we'll start with, again, ladies first, Miss Lauri.
All right.
Miss Lauri.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said he was going first. What we hope that they will walk away with is actionable items that they can implement themselves, whether that be at their work, at their school, anywhere on their job, or in our community in general. I know many of us are involved in churches and other volunteer organizations, or as you're talking about, working with children in our homes, when we're getting together with our families. What are things that we can do differently to be more inclusive, more supportive, open our mind to be more understanding and patient with others that we don't, know their background or their perspective. So we want them to not, last year's goal was to have them leave our event with a heightened awareness and being willing to recognize their own biases and working on overcoming those. But this year we're trying to take it a step further. We want to be able to make change, and none of us can make change, by ourselves. It's really hard. We need these suggestions and a network of other people that are going to help us do those things.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Jimmy?
Well, I'll second that. Lauri said it best, but I'll add a little bit more to that. But I second that. I hope people walk away with, more knowledge to look into the mirror that themselves, to better themselves. And most of all, to show empathy. I think working in this office since I started working for Dr. Allen, and the students that we work with, the programs we work on, and the organizations that we work with, work in and around, It's taught me more empathy. You see people being empathetic to each other, or their differences, the values that they hold, and creating the inclusiveness. So I hope people walk away with more knowledge to look in the mirror and to want to be a part of diverse groups, to create diverse environments, to have more friends of different races and backgrounds, ethnicities, genders. So that's why I hope they walk away with just more knowledge, as Ms. Laura said. So I think it's going to be a great conference, especially with the speakers that we got. Because when I read their bios, and I haven't met or heard either one of them speak, but they all have a lot of knowledge and they have good experiences they can share. So I can't wait to hear them speak, because once you hear from someone that's been there, like the military says, down in the trenches, boots on ground, in different issues of diversity and inclusion, you know how to express that and you put your compassion in it. So I hope people take away from that. I've taken that away before the conference even began. So I'm definitely excited to hear them speak. So yeah, I hope they take away the knowledge and the will to do better. Yes.
What I hope for myself to take away is, while I think I have a certain mindset, and I think, I am so inclusive and empathetic, and with all people from all walks of life. I'm sure there's still that one little place, that part of me that still needs to be worked on. And I'm willing to take a matured look at it and say, okay, Kabila, you need to deal with this. And it's okay. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just something I need to work on. I need to decide, okay, how am I going to work on that? What does it look like for me? Again, it looks different for every single person. So it's not about trying to make you accept somebody, but it's about being a little more open, expanding your view, and yeah, letting people in. I'm just gonna say, oh,
Yeah, great.
y'all, this is for those that know me, they know I have to kind of pull myself back sometimes. Again, having that degree in sociology kind of opened my eyes up to some different things of how society works. And again, I get very passionate and compassionate about certain things. So
Oh,
I
that's
live in this
awesome.
bubble that I want to change the world. I want but it
Well, let's
doesn't
do it
always work
together.
like
Together. Let's
Yeah, we
change the
do it
world
all
together.
together. Auntie Jones, you Auntie Jones now. Yes, yes, we do it all together.
so. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So I'm going to start with me first, though, and then work my way out. But I want to let everybody know that Miss Cecilia posted the link to the implicit bias test. Again, this is by Harvard University. And so I want to encourage everyone to take that, especially if you plan on attending this Diversity in Action conference. So maybe beforehand, you can have a working knowledge of who you are, what you think, and where you stand. And then you can go into this conference with an open heart, open mind to receive the new information and, begin another work within yourself. So, um, or any other thoughts? I don't want to take over. I'm so sorry.
No, those are all great thoughts. As you were mentioning children too, you can even have, because those are free assessments, have your kids or your partner, your spouse or parents or whomever take those assessments as well, because everybody ends up with a different perspective. So that's good
Yeah.
to see.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just want to mention before we run out of time that we have had some great sponsors step up to help us with the cost for this. So besides our organizations, ASU and then St. Bernard's, we have had several other groups that wanted to get involved. So that also included the NAACP here in Craighead County, the Black
Okay.
Professionals Network, the United Way, our Human Resource Association, Families Inc., Life Strategies, Encompass Health, First Security Bank, City of Jonesboro, Simmons Bank, Waddell Cole & Jones, law firm, the Access Group, which is our project search program here at St. Bernard's that provides job training opportunities for people with developmental disabilities, and then the ASU Graduate School. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss that. And then too, to mention that our St. Bernard's employee group here for our African American employees, our LEAP group, they've been very involved in helping us put this together as well.
Okay. We're going to get
Great
ready to
coming
take a
together.
break here
Okay.
soon. But I did want to mention look at what corporations and what businesses and organizations support events like this.
Yeah.
These are businesses you should want to support as well because they're supporting a conference like this. And so I think that says a lot about who they are and what they represent or what they desire to represent. So let's support those that support events like this. That says a lot. But we're going to take a quick break. For those of you listening on the air, we're going to still be live on Facebook, but we'll be right back after these announcements. All right. So um, I love how these different organizations and companies have stepped up to say, we believe in this mission, we believe in this conference, and we want to support it. That's really wonderful.
Yes, to me, it speaks a lot for our community. I think, again, just with everything that's happened this past year, people have a heightened awareness of wanting to do more and get more involved. And most of these organizations I just named were all sponsors last year, and they saw enough value in that event last year. They wanted to jump on board again this year. So I think while we still have our challenges in our community and we can do better, there's a lot of desire, to be more supportive of one another.
Most definitely. Mr. Jimmy, you have anything you want to add to that?
I second that. The organizations, I wasn't here last year, but I heard it was a great event. I mentioned I've been here at A-State almost a year in August. So, but I wasn't here last year for the last year's event. So I'm so excited to be a part of it and to hear those organizations that still support the community since I left for the military in '92. It's awesome. It just reminds me of what I've served over 20 years is being a part of something bigger than yourself. So I am excited that all of these organizations are supporting because I think it gets the word out and more people will learn more about diversity and more people attend our conference. So yeah.
As of now, are you all able to find out how many people have already registered?
So I think we get that number, don't we?
You can find out. I don't know what it is, but Jimmy might
Yes.
just phone a friend or he may have it.
Yesterday when we was at our meeting, Dr. Allen was saying I think it was a little over 50 so far, but more to come, I believe, and pray for us. So yeah, I think it was a little over 50, but I can get that exact number in just a second. But yes, it's at least 50, 52 people so far.
Okay, great. I want to say good morning to Mr. Derek Coleman for checking in. Mr. Derek Coleman is another one of those that works in the community, and he believes in bringing people together, as well as many others that I have encountered. But thank you to everyone who's listening, who's watching. We want to make that number 50 go up even higher. Again, this is virtual, so you don't have to get out of your house. If you can afford to take the day off on next Friday, please, please, please do. Um, I just feel this is going to be really great. The speakers bring many years of experience, personal experience, and expertise to this program, to this conference. And so it's going to be worth the cost of admission, as the saying goes. It's going to be worth that, along with the other things that you get, like the booklet that you will get virtually. So you have to register early by next Wednesday.
Okay.
So is there a time cutoff or like 11:59 or
Yeah, I think it'd be as late as they need to on Wednesday. That's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I remind our Zoom is unlimited. Our Zoom capacity is unlimited, and Dr. Allen, the good Dr. Allen, here, the best boss in the world, I may add. She just told me the numbers are at 68 right now, so that's from yesterday. So we extended that deadline, so I think that's helping. So come on in. This is a great conference with us. Yes.
And then too, we talked about with it being a virtual event, that means that the people that sign up to participate don't have to be in Jonesboro. So this is open to anyone. So if you have, peers or friends or others that you think would be interested that live across the country, they are welcome. We will not discriminate. Anyone is welcome to join and participate in our event.
Yes.
All right, we're going back on air. All right, welcome back to the last segment of Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest today has been Mrs. Lauri Smith, Benards Healthcare, and Mr. Jimmy Bumper from Arkansas State University from the multicultural student multicultural affairs. And I can't say how I can't thank you enough for joining me this morning. I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. I'm looking forward to this conference again, diversity in action. So for those on air, I know we just went through for those on Facebook, but for those listening on air who may have jumped on late, please run through again what, when, and all the other details that they need to know.
Sure. So our event is next Friday, a week from today. It's Diversity in Action, Diversity, Inclusion in Action. It's going to be from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Zoom. So you can do that from home, from work, wherever you might be. And the deadline to sign up is Wednesday, the 16th. So this coming Wednesday, at any point that day, you can go ahead and sign up online. And the fee is $25, a very nominal fee just to cover our speaker cost for us. But that allows you to get some continuing education credit, depending on your professional organization you might be in, but also just to get some great information of what you can do to make a difference in our community.
All right. And I want to point out on the flyer, okay, I've got a green screen. Okay, so you can see it. There's a puzzle. It's like pieces of a puzzle that come together, and it says implicit bias, equity, stereotyping, cultural humility. That's a big one. Like all of these are very major pieces that come together to make this puzzle. Um, so we have about 3 minutes. So we're gonna quickly go through. Let's start with equity because that's one we're hearing that word a lot more. We're not moving away from equality, but equity is a bigger piece of that. So, Mr. Jimmy, would you like to tackle that?
Yeah, I'll do my best to tackle that. When it comes to the equity, people think equality. So I guess I'll start with some examples. Dr. Allen, she tried to train us well. She gave a good training with our organization office here. We train a lot on equity and equality examples. Even I have to admit, when I first joined this establishment, I had a little bit of confusion on the equity and equality. So she trained me up and showed me some different examples. Well, equality means giving everyone the same thing, whereas equity means giving people what they need to reach their best health. So one example was a little picture, I know we can't show now, of maybe 3 people trying to look over a fence to watch a baseball game. Everybody was given an opportunity to look and watch the baseball game. But however, the height of the people that was the tallest could see over the fence. So that equity give them a ladder or something they can stand on to look over the fence to see the game. So it's like, if I explained that well, I hope I didn't confuse. So yeah, that's a good example she gave me. When I was confused, she saw the look on my face and she just presented me with that picture, and that helped a lot. So I've been using it ever since. I wish we could show it. So yeah, it's giving everybody the same thing, whereas equity means giving everybody what they need to reach their best goals in their health. So I hope I didn't confuse anybody. But yeah, so yeah, that's great.
All right. The next piece, cultural humility, um, or cultural awareness. I should say, Ms. Lori.
Yeah, I'd be glad to take that one. I know a lot of organizations in the past, the focus was instead on cultural competence, which the way that I interpreted that term and how that's different than humility, the competence piece was about trying to be as knowledgeable as you could be about different people's cultures and backgrounds, so that you could interact, in a professional way. But to me, I like the humility concept better because we're never going to know everything that we need to know. And even if we did, everyone's different. My viewpoint's going to be different, not just because I'm a white female in my mid-40s. It's also going to be different based on where I grew up at and the people that influenced me. And you're not going to know that about me, just by looking at me. And so that cultural humility instead, to me, is about being humble and how you approach people and trying to, learn more about them and not act like you already know everything that you need to know and how you behave.
Yes, and just as a reminder, culture expands race, and that's a whole anthropology class that we don't have time for today. So, but again, North, South, Midwest, all of that, whole different cultures. So, yes. Um, all right, so we got about 2 minutes. So I want to just quickly tackle these other two, stereotyping and implicit. We've gone through bias a little bit, but let's talk about stereotyping very shortly. Give each of you about a minute or so to touch on that, and we'll wrap up.
I'll go with a stereotyping this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as an African American male, I've been used to like stereotypes and whatnot. The textbook definition of stereotyping is a generalized belief about a particular group or class of people. For instance, I was stereotyped when some people saw me, they thought maybe I can play basketball or I can run fast. So, it wasn't offensive because person that plays basketball is really tall. I guess they thought I was tall, but I'm 5'6". So, but yeah, I've been stereotyped before, and it's been an uncomfortable situation, but you learn to deal with it and I've shown people empathy. I practice a lot of empathy so I can get over those stereotypes. But yeah, that's pretty much what stereotypes mean to me.
All right, Miss Lauri.
Yeah, I would just add on to that exactly what he just said is perfect. And that those stereotypes can sometimes make us seem better than what we really are, like being a great basketball player when we're not. Or it could mean that somebody's stereotyping and assuming something very negative about us just because of our background and who we are. And that may not be true either. So that's not fair. As an example, I know several years ago, we did a lot of training here at St. Bernard's on how to interact with millennials. But sometimes when we get into those generations, that's an easy to stereotype and just assume, well, a millennial is going to want something all done this way and a baby boomer is going to want this. Well, that's not really true. That's common, based on age groups, but you can't stereotype. We're all more than our age or our gender or our ethnicity or our Southern accent or whatever it might be. We're a lot more than that.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. Well, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining me today. Thank you for this information. I hope everyone possible registers. Don't let the spaces fill up and you miss out. Again, you have until next Wednesday. It's $25. You will receive some information via email before the conference. You will, for those of you in certain industries, you can get some continuing education hours. So please, 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 um, don't miss out. So I want to say thank you all for watching, for listening. Thank you all to my guests for joining me on today. Um, and I hope everyone has a great and blessed Friday. Thank you all. We'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having us.
you. We appreciate it.
Great day.